Wexford's history is often told through medieval castles, Norman strongholds, and Viking raids. But its story begins thousands of years earlier. In an age without writing, without metal, when small farming communities were already shaping the land. Today, we're visiting three remarkable historic sites, each from a different era. A Neolithic portal tomb, older than the pyramids, a late Bronze Age hill fort that dominated its landscape, and a rare four-poster stone circle linked to traditions across the Irish Sea. Together, they reveal the deep roots of Wexford's story and the people who built the legacy in stone. This is Ballybrittas Portal Tomb, a monument built during the Neolithic age, between 4000 and 2500 BCE. That's over 5,000 years ago. That's older than the pyramids of Egypt, and centuries before Stonehenge rose on Salisbury Plain. At the time, Ireland's population may have been no more than 100,000 people, if even that. They were scattered in small farming hamlets throughout the country. The Wexford landscape would have been a patchwork of dense woodland and open clearings, carved out with stone axes. The people here were among the first to farm this land, or what we would call farming nowadays, growing crops, keeping cattle and other different types of animals, and beginning to shape a settled way of life. The tomb is formed of two upright stones at the front, the portals, with a back stone closing the rear and a massive horizontal capstone bridging them. That capstone may weigh more than 15 or 20 tons, equivalent to about 4 fully grown elephants. Archaeologists believe it was levered into position using timber frames and earthen ramps, dragged on rollers made from tree trunks. And this engineering feat was done without metal tools, animal traction, or even wheels. Just imagine that. Every stone was chosen, moved, and set in place entirely by human strength and ingenuity, probably by a whole community working together over weeks or even months. What you see here today is the bare skeleton of a much larger monument. Now, originally, the chamber would have been completely covered by a cairn, a mound of smaller stones and earth that might have extended several meters in all directions. Over thousands of years, the mound was stripped away, either eroded naturally or removed by building material, leaving the standing stones exposed. Now, this change gives a view our ancestors never had. In its original form, only the entrance, the tall portals, would have been visible from outside, creating a somewhat dramatic, shadowed doorway into the world of the dead. Portal tombs were used for collective burials, often over several generations, and bodies were sometimes placed here after excarnation, the process of leaving remains exposed to decay before transferring the bones. Very similar to what was going on in the Middle East with the Zoroastrians. Now, finds at similar tombs include decorated pottery, beads, and stone tools, suggesting they were offerings for the dead. The chamber may also have served as a ceremonial space during seasonal festivities, when the living gathered to honour their ancestors. And in this way, the tomb was not just a burial site, but a focus for community identity, tying the living to the land and to the people who had gone before. Some portal tombs in Ireland are aligned with the rising or setting of the sun at certain times of the year, such as the winter or summer solstice. Whether Ballybrittas was intentionally aligned is uncertain, but its orientation suggests it could catch the first or even the last light of the day in winter months. This may have symbolized rebirth, which is the light returning to the world, and linked the cycles of the sun to the cycles of life and death. Such alignments would have added a cosmic dimension to the tomb's role, marking it as a meeting point between earth, sky, and the afterlife. This capstone has been here for more than 5 millennia. It has been through storms, frost, you name it. And when you think about it, it's a testament to the engineering of the people who built it. It really stood during everything from the arrivals of the Celts, the Vikings, the Normans, the English, and yet it still stands here today in 2025. That's truly remarkable. When this tomb was built, farming was still relatively new in Ireland. The type of farming that we think of and associate nowadays, it wasn't as on a bigger scale. It would have been a lot smaller. People were moving from a mobile, nomadic, Bedouin type lifestyle of hunting and gathering to permanent settlements. These new farmers brought with them traditions of building in stone and wood, and ideas that spread from mainland Europe. Monuments like Ballybrittas are part of a wider so-called megalithic culture, stretching from the Iberian Peninsula up to Scandinavia, suggesting Ireland was more connected to the outside world in prehistory than we might assume today. To the amazement of the locals, Ballybrittas has never been extensively excavated, so its secrets remain partly hidden. However, excavations at similar tombs have uncovered cremated and uncremated remains, sometimes from as many as 30 to 40 people. Now, these were often mixed together, suggesting the tomb was more about the collective memory of the community than the identity of individuals. Archaeologists also look at the types of stone used, and in some cases, rock was brought from many kilometres away, and perhaps that could have been from ancestral homelands of the people that were buried there, or significant places, adding symbolic meaning to the monument. It's a big mystery. To the people who built it, the tomb would have been a physical link to their ancestors, and perhaps to the gods or spirits they believed governed the lands. Such places may have been seen as entrances to the other world, guarded by the spirits of the dead. Over time, as farming communities grew and moved across the land, some tombs were abandoned, while others remained focal points in the landscape for centuries. Even today, local folklore often surrounds these stones, sometimes casting them as fairy forts or cursed places not to be disturbed. Surviving more than 5 millennia in Ireland's damp, windy climate is no small feat. The tomb has outlasted the arrival of metalworking, Celtic culture, Christianity, the Vikings, the Normans, the English, and every age since. It has seen so much. It has seen forests cut down, fields ploughed, and towns built. Yet it still stands in the same place where Neolithic builders set it. In that time, the very soil around it has shifted and changed. But the stones remain, making a continuity that's hard to find anywhere else in human history. It's one thing to see a monument in a book or a museum or online, anywhere, but it is another thing to stand where it has stood for 5,000 years. It's something you can't really explain, but you just feel it when you're there at that moment. The builders would have seen the same hills, the same sunrises, the same stars, though the world around them was entirely different. These stones are more than just rocks somewhere at the base of a hill. They are memory, preserved in the land itself, the stories it could tell, the things that it would have seen. The people who built this would have been some of the very first people in Wexford. And that comes to the end of Ballybrittas Portal Tomb. The next one up is Ballybuckley Hillfort, which is only a few minutes' drive from here. Let's go. This is Ballybuckley Hillfort, built during the late Bronze Age, somewhere between 1200 and 600 BCE. This was an age of warriors, traders, and chiefs, when bronze and gold jewellery, weapons, and tools marked status. Ireland's population was growing, trade links were stretching across the Irish Sea and beyond, and control of land meant power. And hill forts like this were the centres of that control, serving as both physical defences and powerful symbols in the landscape. This site was chosen with care. You can see for kilometres in every direction. That gave advance warning of any approach, but it also made the hill fort itself visible from a distance, projecting dominance over the surrounding farmland. And the height was not just military strategy, it was psychological. For people in the valleys below, the fort would have been an ever-present reminder of the leaders and warriors who controlled this territory. The fort's earthworks form a circular enclosure, likely topped with a timber palisade. Now, inside would have been round houses with thatched roofs, storage pits for grain, and working areas for craft production. The ramparts themselves were more than just mounds of soil. They were carefully engineered with layers of sod, clay, and stone to resist erosion. It was a sign of skilled planning and communal effort. While defence was of the utmost importance, hill forts also served as political centres and symbols of prestige. Here, leaders could host assemblies, settle disputes, and display their wealth. Control of a hill fort meant control of the surrounding economy, from the crops in the fields to the trade routes linking to the other parts of Ireland and Britain. It was as much about showing power as it was about protecting people. From up here, you realise this place wasn't just a home, it was a statement. And for anyone travelling around this area, it can oversee the entire area, probably 20 kilometres in circumference. Once they've seen the fort, they would have realised who held the land here. Excavations at other Irish hill forts have revealed animal bones from cattle, pigs, and sheep, often from young animals slaughtered at the peak of health. Now, this suggests that there were great feasts that took place here. Pottery from Britain and even continental Europe hints at far reaching contacts. It's amazing that the people coming to and from Ireland onto the mainland in Europe and here back in Ireland, what routes they must have taken, how they got there in what kind of ships, what small ships did they have. Now, these gatherings weren't just about eating, they were displays of generosity by the leaders, which was to reinforce loyalty and also make new alliances and keep the alliances they already had. Ballybuckley was more than likely one of several fortified sites in a network across southeast Ireland. These sites would have communicated, traded, and perhaps even competed with each other. Bronze Age society here was not isolated. It was kind of like a web of communities. It was linked by marriage, trade, and, of course, occasional conflict.
When the Iron Age arrived, hill forts would have been abandoned, but other hill forts like this one may have continued on for centuries and may even have been refortified.
With the introduction of iron weapons, this would have changed the balance of power, but the idea of the hilltop stronghold endured well into later centuries. 3,000 years have passed since this place was built. The people who lived here would have seen these same hills and rivers, but a completely different world.
Okay, so now we're going to move on to our final stop, Robinstown Great Four-Poster Stones. Let's go.
This is the four-poster stone circle at Robinstown Great, dating to the Middle Bronze Age, roughly between the years 2000 to 500 BCE. While four-poster monuments are common in Scotland, they are rare in Ireland, making this site an unusual and valuable link to wider traditions across the Irish Sea. These stones form a rectangle, about 5 by 4 metres. The tallest stands around 1.7 metres high, the smallest just over a metre. The placement is deliberate, each stone aligned to create a balanced, enclosed space. Four posters may have marked sacred ground, defining a ceremonial room under the open sky. Many four posters are aligned with solar or lunar events. Some mark the midsummer sunrise, others point to rare moonrises that occur only once every 18 or 19 years. Such alignments suggest a deep understanding of celestial cycles, and the stones may have been part of rituals marking time, seasons, and the movement of heavenly bodies.
They may look simple, but these stones could have been part of ceremonies that brought communities together. Moments that tied to the sun, the moon, and the passage of time.
The style of this monument is strikingly similar to examples in Scotland, particularly in Perthshire. This raises questions about whether people here travelled across the sea or shared ideas and traditions through trade and marriage. The Bronze Age was more connected than we often imagine. In local folklore, moving or damaging standing stones brought bad luck. Whether that belief began in the Bronze Age or later, it certainly helped preserve monuments like this for thousands of years, even when the people who built them were long forgotten. Though this site is relatively small compared to other stone circles, the precision of its layout and the effort to erect even these modest stones suggest they held great meaning to the people who left them there. In a largely timber built world at that time, working stone into place was a significant undertaking, reserved for the most important tasks. The builders are gone, but their markers remain. Four stones, thousands of years, and one enduring mystery. We began this journey among the stones of the first farmers, walked the ramparts where Bronze Age warriors ruled, and stood in the shadow of a rare circle built to mark the rhythms of the sky. Thousands of years separate these monuments from us, yet they remain, silent witnesses to every season, every generation, every war, every story this land has seen. We often think history begins with written words or grand empires. But here in Ireland, and here in Wexford, it began with stone, sky, and the will to leave something that would outlast us all.